Yo, what it do, guys, and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be taking a closer look at Vauban, and we're going to be doing a Steel Path Flechette build with him, which basically means this is going to incorporate you guys kind of holding areas, so defense missions, survivals, maybe even particularly interception missions. You can do this solo, you can do it with a team, it's completely fine, but the idea is you're looking to kind of huddle up in a particular area, a particular choke point, and then you're going to be basically building around that choke point. All right, so some tile sets are going to be very different than other tile sets, so that can fluctuate the build a little bit. All right, now I will be using augments, but I won't put them on the screen just yet because I will be talking about both of those augments individually and about how basically they're not really mandatory, they're just luxury, or sometimes not even luxury. So that's why I need to go over them in a moment. So let me go over his abilities, but it's not like a full guide type right now. The reason why I need to go over just a couple of these abilities is to explain what is kind of going on, and then that way you'll see how I designed a build around that. So let's go and start things off. We're going to go for a Flechette build. All right, so Mine Layer has got 4 overall abilities in here. We're going to be using the second one, Flechette. The way that that's going to go ahead and work is when you go ahead and throw the Flechette out, which you can see on screen in the UI right now, it's going to send out an orb, and it's basically going to go ahead and just shoot kind of like damage going all the way around it. All right, so full 360, it's going to be shooting damage out. Now you can lay up to 4 of these Flechettes out. Okay, if you lay a 5th one, it replaces the first one. So again, you can only have a maximum 4 of them. So that's going to be scaling off things like strength and so forth and whatever. It's going to be scaling off duration, which is also going to be good. So just keep all of that in mind. So because we're going to be going for the Flechette, and because it's going to be a stationary little thing that we're going to put out, as we could imagine, we're going to want enemies to kind of be on top of something that's essentially shooting like this, right? How do we do that? Well, enter in Bastile, but not so much Bastile itself. You see, Bastile, if you see in the UI there, it can lift and suspend targets. But if you now go and see what it just did at the end there, it also group targets. So Bastile has 2 usages. It can lift, suspend, and armor strip when they are lift and suspended. We're not looking to do that. What we are looking to go and do is the Vortex, the second part of this ability. We want to go ahead and give them the big old suck and pull enemies in and go ahead and group them up for our Flechette to go ahead and basically kill them. All right, so we're going to be grouping, and then I say grouping and nuking, but only because they rhyme, but it's not a nuke, it's just grouping and killing. Doesn't have the same ring to it. All right, but that's basically what's going on there. Now do go and keep in mind, Bastile can depending on your settings, I'll just put it here on screen, tap and hold, someone's going to go and say it, you can invert it inside your settings. So I'm going to say hold for Vortex, someone's going to go and say, well, actually, Mr. YouTuber, you can go ahead. Yeah, I know, there's a setting, you can change it if you want to go and change your setting to inverted. So when you tap it, you Vortex, when you hold it, you Bastile. It's up to you. All right, I still like Bastile in my other build, so I like my tap and hold by default. If you want to go and flip it around, you can go and do so. All right, but just go and keep that in mind. Now, what's interesting about Flechette is it is one of the very few Warframe abilities that actually benefits from the Nourish setup. What I mean by that is this is your subsumable. This is Grendel's Nourish. This is definitely going to be your not so much alternative to having this build. You're absolutely going to want to have this in your build. All right. The reason for that is because Nourish, like I said, it can apply to weaponry, and when it does apply towards weaponry, it gives you a damage increase, and then it goes ahead and gives you a viral status chance increase, but that scales with your weaponry. Well, when it comes towards Flechette, it works a little bit differently, as you can imagine, and when it comes to other abilities, it also works a bit differently. You see, maybe I'll put it on screen here. There's only a couple abilities this can work with, as in like there's only a couple that can go ahead and actually get the viral proc going off of Nourish, which is very, very interesting. It just so happens to be that Flechette is one of them. And why is that good? Because when it comes towards viral, if we get 1 proc of that, you'll hear me say this loads of times, and I'm fine to drill it into your heads. 1 proc of viral gives us a damage amplification of 100% to that enemy, which means any damage that I'm doing to an enemy that has health there, even if they have armor layer, we get 100%. Now, if I can go and get more stacks of viral, and let's say I go and get 10 stacks of viral, that's 325% damage increase. That is a lot of damage increase as an extra additional modifier to go ahead and take those enemies down. So since it works on Flechette, why would we not take it from Flechette? Furthermore, it's also going to go ahead and help me with my energy return. So this is my main setup, okay? This is the subsumable choice. We're going to be putting it over Vauban's third ability. We do not need his Photon Strike, but we will be keeping his first. I'll go over that in a moment when I get to his Augment, all right? Now, his passive basically just states that you go ahead and do extra damage to incapacitated enemies, and basically majority of what we're doing within this build is basically sucking enemies to be incapacitated. That was a crazy sentence. My God. Anyway, so that's basically what's going on there. Now, with that in mind, you can now kind of understand why the stat priority is in this order, because let's go and start things off with duration. Duration is going to be your main key component. Why? Because it's going to be a very effortless build. We want to scale things off timers. Now, what's going to be somewhat interesting here is, have you ever played the Warframe Octavia? Might kind of see where I'm going to be going with this. When you're all done with this video, you'll see some very kind of like inspiration from how Titania sets herself up with her mallet, with amp and invisibility and all of that stuff. Vauban's going to be kind of looking at Titania, giving her the nod of approval and being like, yeah, that's what I want. And that's what we're going to be inspired by, all right? So duration is really good for all timers. This has got a timer, this has got a timer, this has got a timer, this has got a timer. Excellent. All right, so we're mostly going to be taking the Vortex, Flechette, and even Nourish. All right, so from there onwards, what we do want to be doing is range, but range is going to be very, very flexible. Range is flexible because it depends on the tile set. You see, some tile sets going to be wider, therefore you need to go ahead and reach enemies further with the radius over here, and other areas, other tile sets are going to be maybe smaller, so therefore we don't need as much range. Now here's the thing: you change range according, let's say that maybe you know the tile set that you're doing, and let's say you need to farm that tile set for an AABC rotation for a reward. Let's say that you're doing a survival 20 minutes in getting the loot out, then going back in again, and you know you're doing this multiple times, then yeah, change this min-max to how you're doing that build. If not, take whatever range is comfortable for you. For me, I'm sitting around the 184 because I've got 2 range mods in here. We'll go over those in a moment. And then finally, we've got strength, and strength should be somewhat self-explanatory. Strength is going to be for damage and overall buff and returns and so forth. Ideally, it's going to be for my Flechette, 300 damage over to 417, and then it's going to be for the Nourish as well with a damage increase and so forth. So we are just looking to go ahead and bump up our overall damage a little bit more, and since Flechette is our main damage source, I do want to make sure that that is bumping up. Ideally, if I can just get a viral proc from Nourish, I'm happy. I don't even care about the damage increase per se, just the viral proc is going to be really, really good. So let's go ahead and talk about all of the mods and the way that I got this set up. Let's go and start things off with my efficiency. Oh, sorry, I guess we'll talk about efficiency. Efficiency is situational. It's always dependent on how you, the user, wants to go ahead and do it. Do you want to go and use focus school like Zenurik? Maybe you don't have other focus schools available to you. Well, if you've got only Zenurik and that's all you're using, then as you can imagine, your energy is normally pretty much solved quite a fair bit within using Zenurik itself. So therefore, you could be willing to change particular mods that I wouldn't traditionally change for me, right? So that's totally fine. However, if you're not using Zenurik, then again, you might want to go and fluctuate and situate differently. Now for mine, I am using the Blind Rage because I want to go and get as much strength as I possibly can, but this does go and hurt my efficiency. And although it does hurt my efficiency, I'm completely fine because I've got Nourish, which gives me a energy multiplier. So any form of energy income, energy orbs, energy over time, whatever, it all gets multiplied by Nourish. So I keep this active at all times. So this also includes things like Archon Stretch. So I will be using range. So this is a stretch mod. If I'm going to show you here really quickly, this is a stretch mod, 45% ability range, 45% ability range. But this also gives me, we read it here, abilities that deal electric damage, restore 2 energy per second over 5 seconds. Well, you see, Nourish also increases that to energy with a multiplier of right now currently 1.83, but I'm going to scale more strength, so I'm going to go and get more from that as well. So it's going to be a way over a 2 times multiplier, giving me more energy per second over time. So hang on a second, but abilities that deal electric damage, let's go into towards that ability that I was talking about earlier. This is why we got rid of his Photon Strike and not his Tesla Nervos, because his Tesla Nervos basically states, my camera's in the way, it basically states right down here that you can go and see that it does what damage? Electric. There you go. All right, so that's where your electric damage is going to be coming from on the Tesla Nervos, which means even if I throw just one of these out and just let it attach to an enemy for the duration that it's scaling off right now, what is that? I can't even see. But yeah, then this is going to proc the Archon stretch, okay? And then that's going to scale well off of the Nourish. So you see how that synergy all comes together quite nicely. I'm going to be okay for energy with my setup, all right? So that's why I'm running this little crossfire, okay? Now, I'm going to use things like Prime Flow. I want to store lots of energy if I possibly can. So that's also just going to be nice to go and chuck in here. Now, since my efficiency is going to be a little bit lower, the good synergy that I can also go and get, and I'm going to talk about this pretty quickly before I get into the other mods, is going to be the Brief Respite. Brief Respite basically states that any ability that I am essentially casting, I get 100% of that energy spent to that ability converted over to shields. So this is going to be really, really nice. But this is my only form of backup outside of my main source of survival, which is invisibility, which we'll get into in a moment. All right, so you do not need to go and run this if you do not want to. If you feel super comfortable and this isn't what you want to go and put in there, my extra advice would also go and be to throw things like, oh my goodness, I can't type, throw things like the energy siphon in here as well. So if you've really got energy over time for the electric, and you also got energy over time from here, and they're both scaling off the Nourish, as you can imagine, that's a lot of good energy over time. You can also consider the energy Nexus mod if you really wanted to, but we'll get to that in a moment when we talk about these. But yeah, if you want to go and put corrosive projection in there as well, you can do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to help the base damage that you're doing against enemies by armored enemies by removing 80% of their total armor right there, making them a little bit lower, making them more susceptible to damage. Again, we're not really using Bastile to armor strip fully here because that's not what we're going to be doing, but yes, you can go and do that. So for me, that's why I have Brief Respite. It's a backup survival. If you don't want it, you don't have to go and take it. So I got a little bit of extra duration over here. Now, the key and the three key kind of corrupted mods that synergize pretty nicely together here. Let's go over them. We've got Narrow-Minded. Narrow-Minded gives me plus the duration, but hurts my range. Now, since duration is the main component that I want on here, doesn't matter any tile set or any weather, any whatever, all right? This is going to be the main thing I want is duration. Hurts my range, that's fine. Then I go and put in the Overextended. This gives me more back of my range, but then it goes and hurts my strength. This is situational depending on the tile set. And then I go and get my strength back, all right, but then I go and hurt my efficiency. But as I've stated, I've not technically hurted my efficiency. As long as I've managed to find a way for me to go and get a good sustainable income, then that's the one that I can go and hurt. But you see how this trifecta, one knocks the other, but then I just bring it back, which then knocks another, which I go and bring back, and then knocks the other, which I don't bring back. All right, so that kind of works pretty nice in terms of that like little holy trinity crossfire. You can go and get away with that. And then up here, as for the Exciters, it's entirely up to you. You can go do Cut and Drift, or you can go and do, in my opinion as well, the Power Drift, which is also going to be nice, going to give you a little bit more overall damage return here and the ability strength. Again, really depends on your overall range and how much range you want on your tile set. Ideally, I like the fact that the Vortex in here, I think it was at 18.4. I think that's a pretty decent amount. Ideally, if you can get it to around anywhere between like 15 to 20 meters in most scenarios where I was using it, that's kind of like a bit of a sweet spot, more like 16 to 20 meters. But if you want to go higher than that, go higher, you know, be my guest, do whatever you want to go and do, all right? So you might be talking about the elephant in the room right now. We've got two augments. Clark, quit yapping. Talk to us about these augments. What the hell's going on? Let's start off with Reef and Bastile. Reef and Bastile, first things first, is this mandatory? No. Is this even needed in any way, shape or form? No, but I like talking alternatives, so you're getting alternatives. Bastile Augment. Enemies within the Bastile have a 100% chance to be repelled every 4 seconds. Do we care for that? No. Why? Because we're not using Bastile like I said earlier. Ideally, we want to use the Vortex at all times. So the second part of this says Vortex's duration is increased by 70% of its maximum duration for each additional Vortex thrown into it. Might sound like a lot. Let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. If I go ahead and throw one out really quickly and we go and look into the bottom right, you'll go and see that my overall duration is 38 right now. Yeah. Now, if I was to go ahead and throw another Vortex towards that one, it consumes into it. Okay, maybe I didn't line that up correctly. It will be consumed into it. There we go. That was better. It consumes into it, and now it increases the timer. So if I just go and stand on this infinite energy right now and keep throwing into it, you can see, look at the timer now, 173 seconds. You can get an absurd amount of duration But here's the reason why I say it's not a necessity by all means. Because as you could imagine, if I'm now looking to move to a new area, that's going to be wasted if I'm now moving away from that. So my advice would be, and here's the alternative here, my advice would be, if you know and you're comfortable and you're going to sit in that area because you've played that mission before and you're happy with that tile set, use it. It's not actually that bad. If you are not happy with that tile set and you're new to it and maybe you're just not feeling it, you're not going to miss anything by taking it out. All right, now your alternatives can be, do you want more strength to go ahead and increase your what's it called, your Flechette? Do you want more range to increase your overall? So if I showed you here, so here's more range, you're going to put the Auger Reach in there because I've already got stretch or Archon Stretch, so I can put Auger Reach in there. More range, so like 21 meters doesn't sound too bad. Do I want to go and get more strength in here? I'll go and put the Auger Secrets in there. Keep in mind, that's just in a, this is currently Naramon right now, so I have to use Naramon, but there's loads of other strength mods. You can go do Umbra, Intensify, you can go do Transient Fortitude, so if you want to go and chuck those in, you can do. But let's say maybe you want strength in there, sure, you can go and do that. Or maybe, God forbid, you're an absolute masochist and you really want to go increase that duration even more, you can also go and do that as well. All right, so I mean, quality of life is you can put whatever you want it to inside the slot. If you wanted to go one step even further and you wanted to go and add some survival to your build, consider using the Rolling Guard. Maybe you don't want to use the Brief Respite and you use the Energy Siphon or something. Use the Rolling Guards, because at least when I come out in visibility, this is more reliable after my shield gating has been broken, all right? Whereas this one, I just need to be a little bit responsive, make sure I've got spare energy, off I go, all right? But that's entirely up to you, entirely up to you. So you can see alternatives. So let's go ahead and now talk, put that back in just real quickly. Let's now go and talk about the second one. Now this is going to be called Tesla Bank. This is the second augment in here. Again, is this mandatory? No, not in the slightest. I'm going to talk about the pro and I'm going to talk about the con of Tesla Bank. So so this is a Tesla Nerva augment, this is the first ability. Whilst a target has a Nervous attached, any damage dealt to it will be absorbed by the Nervous and then channeled into an 8-meter burst of electricity on death. Now, overall, the 8-meter burst of electricity on death would work really well with the idea of Archon Stretch. So I'm applying it towards more and more targets, more and more overall dot, more and more overall death on all the targets that are incorporated and brought together inside the Vortex, right? So we're going to suck them in and then we can kill them a lot quicker with it. That's the pro. The con here, unfortunately, is Tesla Nervous. Where the issue with this boils down to is, let's say I go ahead and group enemies here, and let's say I've now killed all of those enemies there. Let's say one of these Tesla, watch what it does right away. Let's say I've got one Tesla Nervous and it's just sticking around. There's a problem here. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but I do have some enemies summoned up there. That Tesla Nervous is instantly seeking those enemies. Why is that a problem? Because it does electric damage. And it does electric damage, which is great for my Archon Stretch, so I can go and get some energy over time with the Tesla Nervous. But it's bad because, unfortunately, it's now going to crowd control those enemies over there with electricity procs, which is not good because I need those enemies here. Does that make sense? There's the pro and con about this one. It's entirely up to you. If you want to increase your KPM, I'd maybe consider dropping it out, but otherwise maybe don't look to use all four, because when it comes to Tesla Nervous, you can either go ahead and throw one out like this, or you can hold it and you can juggle 4 of them and then throw 4 of them out, all right? And send the little Beyblades off to go and do. Thank God that top step stops them from doing all of this mess, all right? So it's kind of up to you, but that's why I want you guys to understand. I put both of them in there so that you guys can see both of them. Do you need both of them? No. Have I used both of them in the setup? Yes. I kind of half like it, I kind of half don't, but you know me, I like to go and try lots of different things. So hopefully you understand where the augments can be applicable, the pros, the cons, and the alternatives. We all good with that? Cool. So, sorry, I've got hay fever, so my nose is a bit blocked right now. So let's go ahead and talk about the Arcanes. And let's go and start things off with the scaling strength Arcane, because they're going to be inside missions scaling quite often, and endurance, survival, so forth, whatever. I'm going to be using the Molt Augment. A Molt Augment states that on kill, it scales your ability strength up to, and it stacks your ability strength to 60% after 250 kills. So as you can imagine, that's going to be quite nice. That's an extra 60% ability strength, which means my Flechette is only going to go ahead and increase the overall base damage that it's doing here. So that's fantastic, right? So we're gonna go and scale that up really nice. That's gonna take me to 199%. The energy multiplier is also gonna be scaled up as well. So this is just gonna be overall a really, really good return invested into the build. Now, we have Arcane Arachne. This one states, on wall latch, there's 150% damage to primary and secondary weapons for 30 seconds. So pause for a second. This is where it's a little bit different. Now, this one also, similar to how Flechette got lucky here with the whole Nourish being applicable to it, Flechette also gets a little bit lucky here with how Flechette also benefits from the Arcane Arachne. There are some abilities that do benefit from this 1.5 times multiplicative damage setup. That is going to be important going forwards, right? It's one thing that I'm getting damage from this. It's another thing that this is multiplicative to this, all right? Then we can also go and get some viral status on them, which is also going to be viral amplification. I mean, brother, sign me right up. Now you can see where the damage is all kind of coming together, right? But this is going to be on wall latch, which means I do have to go ahead and awkwardly do this. Now, if I am doing this in most tile sets and whatnot, this does make me a little bit susceptible and prone to enemies shooting a very still and very easy target glued onto the wall, right? So that's not going to be that great. Well, this is where we're going to start moving into this lovely chap that we start seeing here. So let's go ahead and go in towards what he looks like as a setup really quickly. You'll notice I'm not using any weapons really here. Yes, I do have the Prade or something right now, but to prove a point, if I could unequip this, I would unequip it. It's going to be very important going in towards this part. So this is the Hurus Kubro. Now, Hurus Kubro, as we can go see up here, is a stealthy ally. Now, the rest of it, we don't care about. Let's go and talk about his stealth in general. And I'm going to go and talk about his build and what is important in here and what isn't important in here, because there are only certain things you really need to make this work. Everything else is either luxury or it's 1,000,000,000% not needed. So I'm going to talk about it really quickly, but please give me a minute to cook. All right, for those who are like, why are you running that? Give me a second. So let's go and start off with the main component. It's going to be Stalk. Now, if you go and read it, it does go and say that the Kubro cloaks itself and its master to stalk down its prey when they're within 24 meters. What you will go and notice is it doesn't state things about cooldown, doesn't state things about duration, doesn't state all of the other like nitty-gritty little details that you want to go ahead and know. So what that basically means is if I go ahead and walk towards these guys, what you will go and see is he cloaks me. If you look up here, there's no duration or anything on that. I'm just cloaked. That's pretty good. But what typically breaks the cloak then? That's one thing to know, right? So I've now sorted out my survival just by simply him doing that. But what if I use an ability? What if I use my first ability? Oh, okay. What if my first ability does damage? Okay, we're also still fine here right now. Okay, the Archon stretch is propped, which is good. But as you can go and see, I'm still cloaked. What if I throw my Vortex out? I'm still cloaked. What if I throw a Flechette orb out to go and do some damage? I'm still cloaked. But then what breaks it? Melee. Not just melee. Primaries, secondaries, anything. There's a reason why I don't have this stuff equipped right now. So let me go ahead and do this one more time. I'll stand next to it. He's going to go ahead and cloak me. I'm now... This is my main component of survivability. Why would I ever want to do that? I wouldn't. So as you can go ahead and... Do you see now? Does that make sense? That's why I'm not having anything else in here. But I will go and talk about something in a second about you still having a backup weapon, because I think it can still be important going forward. So let's go ahead and go back in towards the builds. So we spoke about how the Stalk works, right? This is our main component of survival. Now you can kind of see the Octavia somewhat inspiration that I was talking about earlier kind of being played into it. So let's go and talk about some of these mods. Let's talk about the mods that we're not typically going to somewhat benefit from because they're counterintuitive. Let's do that first, and let's go in towards everything else that's a little bit beneficial second. So let's go and talk about reinforced bonds. So if the companion exceeds over 1,200 max shields or over shields, then your fire rate is increased by 60%. What did I just say about weapons? Okay, but what about particular, how do I say, units that turn up that are going to become very problematic for you? I don't know, things like acolytes or so forth, or just, I'm trying to think of something else. I don't know, maybe like a corpus nullifier bubble or something else like that, although I wouldn't really typically use this build. Well, I guess you could do. Flechette should go ahead and whittle them down, but My point is, for whatever reason that you may now need a weapon to deal with a particular target, maybe you accidentally meleeed, it's okay. Maybe you accidentally shot, it's okay. You're human, you're prone to error, you're prone to mistake. If that's the case, whatever you've now got in front of you, you may now want to deal with it pretty rapidly. Okay, rolling guard, brief respite, those are good backups, but for the meantime, you've just now lost your stalk survivability. Get rid of it. Whatever you've just done, if it's going to go ahead and fight you, fight it back quick, really quick, okay? Because this thing's going to go ahead and re-proc after its like little cooldown. It is going to come back around. I can't remember, I should have put it on the screen. So this is going to go ahead and re-proc, but it needs a little bit of time to go ahead and do so. In that time, if you need to go and get rid of that threat because you messed up or something else happened, do it. So you can see it's counterintuitive, but it can be used as a backup because I can thankfully get the shields on my Kubro. Okay, now speaking of that, this is where the second one also comes in. You'll notice if the companion's critical chance is 50%, then you get a 1.2 times final critical damage multiplier. What is that gonna matter if I'm not typically using weapons? The same scenario here. Now you might be thinking, good God, that's a bit of a stretch though, Clark, isn't it? I'm not gonna lie to you, champs. There is so little else to put in here that isn't health or armor. I'm genuinely, so many other bonds don't typically work here. I'm not going to want duplex bonds. Contagious bond isn't going to be working here. I don't really get anything from Astral because, again, what we just spoke about, we're not really going to be particularly doing stealth kills and all of that stuff. The hunter mods aren't really going to be bringing an awful lot back towards it. I mean, I could put Loyal Companion if you want me to. I could put Medipet if you wanted me to. You get the idea? When it comes towards some of the other mods in here, you're very limited to what you can actually technically go and put in. Ideally, if I did have to go ahead and choose, this is what I would choose. Stalk, primed animal, calculated, hastens. Mecha does go ahead and work here. All right, just keep this in mind. Mecha does go and work here. It gives you a 90% shield recharge to the companion, but it does go and say companion marks a target every 60 seconds for 3 seconds. Killing the target applies their status effects to all enemies within 7.5 meters. Why is that important? Why can that be pretty good? Because again, if I do happen to go and get that viral proc going off on them, and if he does happen to go ahead and mark one inside the Vortex, what's really nice, if I go and kill that guy, he'll spread it to all of the other ones inside that 7.5 meter Vortex range. See how that kind of like synergizes? Just a little bit of synergy to go and chuck in there, right? But again, that's once every 60 seconds for 3 seconds. Not an awful lot, unless I wanted to go and scale it and put more mecha on the overall set. You can go and do so, but again, you can go and chuck it in. Fetch is obviously going to be mandatory. So this little section here is all mandatory. This can also be mandatory as well, but it's up to you. You can use any of these. You can use resourceful. You can use any of the retriever related ones, right? Loyal, prosperous. Do you want credits? Do you want credits and resources? Do you want resources? For me, I only go for resources. I'm okay on the credits. And then we got mystic bonds. Now this one does go and say after your companion uses abilities with cooldowns 5 times, you may cast a Warframe ability without expending energy. This is what's so funny about this one, because again, we're talking about the counterintuitives really quickly. This is also counterintuitive, but hey, why not, right? Again, there's not many other things I could typically somewhat put in here. If you wanted to go and say, I'm going to go and use Simp Fibers, go ahead and give you, companion armor, you can do that, all right? But, you want to go and get your companion back a bit quicker, you can go and do that. That's fine, all right? But this basically means it would need to use this 5 times in order for me to go ahead and get a free Warframe ability. It's not the best, as you can imagine, but again, there's not many other things I can really typically, what am I going to do? Put Scavenge in here? Like, Momentous Bonds, it's not attacking. Like, do you know what I mean? There's very little, unless you want to go and do a whole bunch of passives and survivals, you can go and do so. So it's up to you. These ones I do like. These ones, alternative situations, but hopefully you understand why I at least have them as somewhat kind of relative backups. I'm going to show you the clause here. Just bite. Elusive, I don't need this thing attacking. Okay, just stay still, put me invisible, you chill out, stay invisible with me, and then we got the bite. Good? Okay. So that's going to be all of that built up. Now I can still go and use Madurai if I wanted to. Madurai is going to go and give me things like Sling Strength, which is going to be nice. Switching to a Warframe after a Chain Sling, so I'm going to go and sling a few times with my with my operator into the ground. They're going to switch over to a Warframe, and I get 40% ability strength. That could be nice in the Flechette orbs, as you could go imagine, or even the Nourish applicable. That's also going to be nice there. And I also get a little bit of cast speed as well whenever I go and switch from my operator to my Warframe. That's also going to be nice as well to go and throw in there. And again, if I do happen to go down, or if I'm in a bad spot, or I'm up against Frax Warriors, or something else I need to go and take out with Void, then I can go and use things like Void Strike, where I can go and get my first ability to get me lots of extra damage towards my amp. And then I can go and use things like Last Gasp down here, where I can go and revive my Warframe by killing 3 enemies within 15 seconds as well, all right? And it's going to be easier to kill those enemies with my amp if I go and take Void Strike. Okay, so that's basically all I've got going on there. Ideally, though, if you really wanted to, you could just go and use the entire Zenyric tree here, because it's very, very passive. Energy Pulse, additional, energy pickups grant EOT, so 50% additional energy over time. Hardened Wellspring also gives you ability strength, but also gives you energy over time as well. And also Inner Might is basically the mystic bonds that I have on the companion, but you basically get a free ability every 60 seconds, all right? You can also go ahead and throw that in there as well. It's going to be a very big ability spam usage where you're going to be using this overall rotation. Let me go and talk about the Archon Shards really quickly that I do have here on the build. So let's go and start things off with the casting speeds. Again, I'm going to be throwing quite a few things out here. I don't want to be sticking around. Let's go ahead and get those abilities rotated ASAP. And again, not wait or stick around or anything else like that. Casting speed is going to be good quality of life. Chuck in as many that you need or as little as you need. It's going to be your call. Over here, I also have the maximum energy field on spawn. This just allows me to go ahead and start my mission nice and quick with the ability rotation that I may need. So this basically means my energy down here is 413. It should be enough to go ahead and apply a Vortex with a Nourish and a Flechette, so I can at least go ahead and get the build rolling, and then I can go throw like a Tesla Nervous off to give myself a little bit of energy over time. And then once that slowly starts building up and getting acquired, and I get a little bit of energy over time and all of that, then I can start casting more and more Flechettes and so forth and whatever, all right? So this just gives me a fighting chance. As soon as I start the mission, I don't need to use that energy pad or anything else like that. And then finally down here, we have the Tau Forged Crimson Shards for ability duration. Again, that's what gives me a tremendous amount of ability duration on here, because there's a lot of, this is this actually duration? I don't think this is actually duration, forgive me. But this is duration, this is duration, this is duration, and these are the 3 main ones that I'm going to be using anyways, all right? So do go and keep that in mind. That's also going to be really, really nice there. Now, as for some other Archon Shard alternatives, you can go and use the things like Violets for the Equilibrium, but ideally, I'd keep it plain Jane with basically near enough what I've got here. As long as you've got the ability duration and a little bit of casting speeds, I would say you're near enough set. Like, that's going to be like the 2 main parameters to go ahead and work off, all right? As to anything else you want to go ahead and use, it's mostly just going to be quality of life related stuff, or ability strength from the Crimsons as well, all right? Now, in terms of overall ability rotation, I will go and show you roughly what this looks like. Again, we do want to be scaling a lot of things, but let me go and just show you really quick. Number 1, make sure I've got my Flechettes scaled over here. So, active over here. So my Flechettes are on the right rotation. Then what I'm going to go and do is simply, I'm going to start things off by void slinging into the ground. So I've got my sling strength. So this is applicable straight away. I've also got my basically natural talent power transfer. And then what we're going to go and do is I'd throw this into an area. Maybe I want that area right there. That's looking pretty good. Then what I'm going to go and do, throw a Flechette out. I'd make sure I go ahead and Nourish, make sure that Flechette's off and good. And then I'd like to go ahead and surround them like this. I'm going to go throw a Tesla Nervous in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and wall latch onto this. And then when I go and look at the overall damage and destruction that it'll go and start doing, and keep in mind, it'll build up and so forth. And then there's the thing like the Tesla Nervous and whatnot. If I ended up throwing these guys into the middle there like that as well, this would only but overall just help. If I put the Flechettes a little bit more on top of the Vortex, that'd also be good. I can add this into the Vortex since I've got the Augment going on there, so I can increase the duration. And then when new enemies start entering the vicinity, they'll also go ahead and get pulled in like so. Okay, so they're also going to get pulled in. I need my heroes to go and reclaim me there. And then just all I need to go and do is make sure that I'm jumping and wall latching onto the wall every so often. I don't actually know what's breaking that right now, just forgive me. Yeah, so just go and keep in mind that's how it would work. Might be a couple of issues here inside the Simulacrum, but don't worry. I'll show you some gameplay, and then there won't be as many breaks and whatnot inside the gameplay, okay? So anyways, speaking of gameplay, let's go and get some gameplay up on the screen there. So yeah, again, it should be a relatively effortless build. A lot of it should just be basically waiting on timers and letting the build itself go ahead and do all of the work for you. This is why I'm saying it's very Octavia-esque inspired, using the invisibility and then using things like Flechette, almost being somewhat similar to her mallet, just go ahead and do all of the damage and all of the work. All right, that's basically what's going on there. Nourish applicable on towards it, Arcane Arachne, adding even more damage. And then depending where you are on whatever task that you go towards, your KPM is going to fluctuate. Okay, just keep that in mind. Your KPM is definitely going to go fluctuate. Again, if you are using the Tesla Nervous, which is the first ability, do go and keep in mind that it may go and seek enemies after it's done nuking the little group that you're in with the Vortex. There's not entirely an awful lot that you can go and do about that, or just don't use the ability. That's completely fine as well. All right. And besides from that, it's a very simplistic build. It's very easy to go and understand. It's very easy to go and apply. Typically, as you could imagine, I'm using it solo. You could go and use it in a group, so long as the group understand what you're doing and can also somewhat work with you. Maybe you could have like a Necros on your team who's using Desecrate. It's going to help you whenever an enemy dies. They can go and get additional loot as well, all right? So you could go ahead and consider some extra alternatives like that, which will only just go ahead and help your synergy with other Warframes and so forth. But yeah, it's I don't think there's much else going to say here, so I'll go and bring you guys back. But yeah, it's a very, I don't know, it's 10-man heavy, very simplistic build that is basically just getting the job done in terms of it being a little bit offensiveness. Vauban could still use a little bit of quality of life and a couple of changes to go and help him out, but for the most part, I do really like the build. Again, very effortless, and allows me to go ahead and just be somewhat semi-AFK. Maybe I want to watch a program or something else like that. I don't need to pay too much attention, whilst I'm also getting rewards and letting everything cycle for me. All right, so anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. I'm hoping I covered everything. I think I missed something. I'm hoping I covered everything, but thank you guys so much for watching. If you did go enjoy it, please go and leave a like. If you think that you think someone else out there, a friend or a community or someone else would go and enjoy the video, consider sharing it with them. I'd be very thankful for your shares as well. And if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. But as always, I'll be seeing you guys again inside the next video. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.